The opulent dinner made up for the awkward atmosphere in the dining room. Hindi alam ni Cassandra kung anong tumatakbo sa isip ng dalawang babaeng kasalo nila. Matanda sa kanya mga ito, but they still looked very sexy and pretty in their own way. At mukhang interesadong dalawa kay Mateo. Panay ang tingin ng mga ito sa asawa niya. And not once did she notice them. Cast seductive glances at him. Hindi niya iyon gusto. "What's wrong?" bulong ni Mateo. Napasulap siya sa mga mata nito. "Wala, medyo busog na kasi ako." Napatingin to sa plato niya. "Is there still room for dessert?" He drawled. Napahagikik siya at hindi na kontrol ang sarili. Hinaplos niya ang pisngi nito. "I think I could squeeze in a bite or two." She giggled. He laughed quietly. Binalik nito ang pansin sa mga kasalo. The two women were shooting daggers at her when she glanced at them. "Mukhang type ka ng dalawa," aniya. Dinala siya ni Mateo sa lake house pagkatapos ng dinner. She could not contain her happiness. The small spot was romantic. Perfect. "Bakit? Nagsiselos ka? Ano magagawa ko kung mas magandang lalaki ako kaysa sa mga asawa nila?" Natatawang hinampas ko ito sa dibdib. He was grinning like a schoolboy at walang halong pagkukunwari ang katuwa ang pinapakita nito. She stood up and walked near the edge. Tumayo rin ito at huminto sa likuran niya. Hindi na siya nagulat nang pumatong sa balakang niya ang dalawang kamay nito. His hands glided, spanning the small curve of her waist to the fullness of her hips. Napapikit siya. The scorching heat of his skin seized her. The subtle scent of flowers with a touch of masculinity captivated her. She loved the smell of his perfume. Mateo pulled her, and she rested her back against his chest. Tuluyan ang pumaikot sa bewang niya ang mga braso nito. His head dropped and kissed the curve between her neck and shoulder. Ipinaling niya ang ulo, giving him more access to her skin. Her mind screamed continuous warnings. Walang dapat intimacy kapag wala silang audience. Yun ang usapan nila kanina lang. So why was he kissing her? And why was she allowing him? Because it felt wonderful and tremendously satisfying. She caught her breath when one of his hands slid between her chest, upward, closing in on her neck. His finger touched the pulse at the base of her throat, and then he held her cheek and turned her head toward him. His breath hovered above her face, teasing her. Blue-green eyes scanned her features, like searing laser lights burning a trail on her skin. Namula ang buong mukha niya. "We shouldn't be doing this," hirap niyang sabi. Kundi na lamang at uhulagpas na ang self-control niya. Mateo seemed to have already lost it. Somebody might be watching. His thumb traced her lower lip. Napigil niyang hininga. "You are so beautiful." The low, soft tone of his voice finally destroyed her resistance. To hell with her deal. This was her fairy tale and Mateo was her prince. Maaring hindi totoo ang relasyon nila, but the attraction was real. She was on an adventure. Adventures require risk. That moment, she would risk everything just for a kiss. Bahala na. Tuluyan na siyang humarap sa binata. Hinawakan niya ang mukha nito at mariing pinaglapat ang kanilang mga labi. "I will no longer sell the hotel," Don Joaquin said casually. Sabay-sabay silang bumulalas ng pagtataka. Nasa loob sila nun din at pinag-uusapan na tungkol sa property nito. Ang akala niya, isang bidding process ang mangyayari. He was prepared to outbid his opponents para lamang mapa sa kanya ang hotel. "Calm down, gentleman. I have no intention of selling my property. Instead, I am going to give it away." Umawang ang bibig niya. What was the old man up to? "I don't understand, senyor. Whom will you give it to?" "I will give it to any one of you who are most deserving to have it." Nagkatinginin silang tatlong kausap nito. Deserving ang ginamit nitong salita, hindi capable. Paano nito pipiliin kung sino ang deserving sa kanilang tatlo? "I would like to give you a test." They waited apprehensively. "I have rented 3 modest farmhouses." On his cue, binigyan sila ng tigi-isang mapa ng assistant nito. "The spot encircled on your respective map is where you will go should you decide to accept the challenge." Sa kanyang mapa ay nakabilog ang isang lugar, somewhere in the Dingle Peninsula. If you could survive there for 5 days without any modern means of comfort and living, Wait, you want us to live like primitives in your farmhouses? Not primitives. There will be water and electricity, and all the necessary amenities. And there will be plenty of food. But you have to fend yourselves. You are to live for 5 days as ordinary people. They were all open-mouthed. The old man continued. If you are into the challenge, my assistant will have to seize all of your gadgets, as well as those of your wives, including your credit cards. You are allowed only to bring your clothes. I will provide each one of you transportation and cash enough for 5 days. I have assigned each of you a personal safety deposit box in which to store your possessions. Have no qualms, gentlemen. Your things will be properly secured until your return. Someone made a humorless laugh. Nakasimangot ang katabi niyang si John. Siya ay kunot din ang noo. Tama si Trevor. The old man was probably suffering from the early stages of dementia. Of course, you have the option to not accept my challenge and walk away. And lose my chance at acquiring a profitable property for free? No way! Determinadong sabi ni Mateo sa sarili. I will be flying back to Spain tomorrow. I expect to meet you here again after 5 days. What if one of us cheats? How will you know? Believe me, Evan, I will know. That was another puzzle he could not figure out. So, who is with me? He raised his hand almost instantly, despite his confusion. Sumunod din ang dalawang kasama niya. Don Joaquin smiled smugly. Whatever game he was playing, he was clearly enjoying every bit of it. Nagbabasa ng libro si Cassandra sa library. Aksidente lamang siya nakarating doon habang naglilibot sa loob ng bahay. She tried to wait for Mateo at the lake house, pero dumidilim na at ayaw niyang tumigil doon ng mag-isa. Sa halip na magkulong sa kwarto, naglibot na lamang siya sa loob ng mga bahay. Alam niyang nagaganap ang meeting sa den. She steered away from the room and found the library instead. Cassandra? Muntik pa siyang mapatayo sa gulat. Nilingon niya ang nakangiting matanda, nakakapasok lamang sa pinto. She was so engrossed with the historical romance she was reading na hindi niya namalayang pumasok ito. I'm sorry to startle you. No. I mean, it's okay. I'm sorry I took one of your books. Nonsense. Mikasa Sukasa. You can stay here and read as many books as you can. Oh, that is very generous of you. His gaze dropped to the Jane Austen classic she was reading. You like Mr. Darcy? Like him? No, I love him. Excited na sagot niya. He is just so romantic. You know, I have seen the film but I haven't read the book. She caressed the old hardbound cover as if it was a precious treasure. Don Joaquin made a short laugh. Take it, Cassandra. It's yours. You don't mean this is a first edition copy? Mas mahal yun kaysa sa reprint. And I'm sure that my little treasure will rest on good hands. His smile was warm and fatherly. Consider it as a gift, Cassandra. Take it. She was too overwhelmed, too grateful to even speak. She nodded her head and smiled. Nagpaalam siya sa matanda na babalik na sa kanyang silid. Nasa loob ng banyo si Mateo nang pumasok siya. Saan ka nanggaling? Tanong nito pagkalabas. Nakapag-shower na ito at nakasuot lamang ng pajama bottom. She could not control herself from gazing at his perfectly toned pecs and abs, and the trail of fine hair dusted across his chest, ending just below his belly button. His muscles were well defined but not bulky. Her mouth went dry. Cassandra, tawag nito. Pinamunahan siya ng mukha na makita ang nanunuksong ngiti nito. Saan ka ika ko galing? Sa library. Lumapit ito at sinulyapan ng hawak niyang libro. Iniyuko niya ang ulo na isang pagkakamali dahil nakaupo siya sa gilid ng kama at nakatayo ito sa harapan niya. Her gaze went straight to the tempting bulge below his waist. Pride and Prejudice. Mahilig ka pala sa historical romances. Napalunok siya. Oo. Her voice croaked. Lihim niyang namura ang sarili. Mabuti na lamang at naisipan ni Mateo na umalis sa harapan niya. She exhaled sharply. Hindi ka maniniwala sa pinag-usapan namin sa meeting. Don Joaquin is no longer selling his property. Wala sa tono nito ang pagkainis. Napasulyap siya rito. His face was a mask of confusion and amusement. Ibig sabihin, sayang lamang pupunta natin dito? Umiling ito. No, Cassandra. As he said, he is no longer selling it, but he is giving it away for free. What? Pero kailangan muna naming dumaan sa isang challenge. What? Natawa si Mateo sa hindi nagbabagong reaksyon niya. Anong challenge ang binigay niya? At saka bakit parang ang weird naman? Nagkibit balikat ito. Hindi ko nga rin alam kung anong pumasok sa isip na matandang yun. But I wanted that property so much, I accepted the challenge. Anyway, hindi naman yun masyadong mahirap. He told her about the 5-day stay at an old farmhouse somewhere in the Dingle Peninsula. Sinabi rin itong kailangan nilang mamuhay doon ng simple, na wala ang kanasayanan yun lang karangyaan. Na sila mismo mag-aasikaso sa kanilang sarili. That's not bad. At marunong ako magluto. I think we will survive kung 5 araw lang. We might even like anang dalaga. At totoo yun sa puso niya. Kung minsan nakakasawa ring palagi may taong handang sumunod sa lahat ng utos niya. That she never needed to move a muscle para makuha ang gusto niya. It would be a breath of fresh air just to be free, to be independent. At dahil nagpapanggap silang mag-asawa, para silang maglalaro ng bahay-bahayan. Hindi pa man, ay nasasabik na siya. Mateo watched as Cassandra's face lit up in enthusiasm. No doubt, nasa dreamland na naman ang diwa nito. Kung nakikita lamang niya ang sarili, mapapansin niya ang ngiti sa kanyang mga labi ay nagre-reflect din sa kanyang mga mata. He had been smiling frequently since he met her. Just the thought of her made him light-hearted. Her nearness electrified every nerve and neurons inside his body. Her smile set the embers of lust ablaze. He had never felt so alive. With Cassandra, he was not Mateo, the billionaire businessman. He was simply Mateo. One reason why he jumped at Don Joaquin's offer was that wala siyang duda na makaka-cope up si Cassandra sa buhay probinsya. At dahil nga mag-asawa ang drama nila, para silang maglalaro ng bahay-bahayan. He shook his head as he smiled. Ni hindi niya naranasang maglaro noong bata siya. So, when do we leave? The chirpy voice brought him back to her presence. Tomorrow, magpo-provide ng transportation para sa atin si Don Joaquin. At ano naman ang dapat natin gawin kapag nasa Dingle na tayo? Nagkibit siya ng balikat. Anything. Don Joaquin said we will have to fend for ourselves. I guess it's up to us to amuse ourselves too. Humagikik ito. I wonder kung ano tumatakbo sa isip ng dalawang kalaban mo. Well, aniya, na umupo sa tabi ng dalaga. They don't have you. Kaya natitiyak kong mananalo ko sa challenge na to. Pabiru siyang sinikon nito. Ang yabang mo. Inakbayan niya ito. She tensed for a brief moment, pero kagad ding nag-relax. Nagsasabi lamang ako ng totoo. You are my lucky charm, Cassandra. She looked up and stared into his eyes. Nakaawang ang mga labi nito sa pagkamangha. He was tempted there and then to slit the sand to her nape, angle her head, and ravish her lips with his mouth. With a map and a nap cash on hand, inside the Odisea duster, Mateo and Cassandra set out of their journey to the Dingle Peninsula. Seryosong pinag-aaralan ng babae ang hawak na mapa, pati ng dossier ng property na tutuloyan nila. It was a 2-bedroom farmhouse on the Slay Ahead route at the foot of Mount Eagle and overlooking Ventry Bay. Hindi naman sila maliligaw dahil madelalyadong ruta papunta roon. Sana naglagay man lang ng pictures, she thought with a pout. Subalit hindi nabawasan ang excitement niya. Her adrenaline was kicking, her pulse throbbing. She felt giddy as a young girl on her first date. Ready ka na? Tanong ni Mateo. Siniguro lamang nitong wala silang nakalimutan bago sumakay ng sasakyan. Gaya ng kasunduan, mga damit lamang at perang ibinigay ni Don Joaquin ang dala nila. Plus, the DSLR camera na bitbit niya. 4 na oras ang biyahe natin. Baka mainip ka. Nagbibiro ka ba? I'm so excited. I wouldn't want to miss anything. Putol nito. Nakangiti ito ng sulyapan niya at kumindat pa na magtama ang mga mata nila. Suddenly shy, she threw her gaze outside the window as he maneuvered the car out of the busy streets of Dublin and onto M7. Nag-stop over sila. sa Port Louis para magmerienda at para na rin bisitahin ang Rock of Dunamis, isa sa mga pamosong ruins sa Ireland. Umikot ang mga mata ni Mateo nang isa-isahin niyang itinerary nila para sa araw na iyon. Na-research na niya kung ano-anong tourist attractions ang meron sa bawat syudad at villages na madadaanan nila. Kung masusunod iyon, na talagang sisiguraduhin niya, aabot sila ng hapon bago marating ang farmhouse. To her surprise and delight, hindi nagreklamo ang kasama niya. Nakatayo si Mateo sa isang bahagi ng ruins. Tinatanaw ang scenery sa ibaba ng burol. A faint smile curved his lips. Half of his face was shadowed by a wall. He looked satisfied, happy. Hindi isang professional photographer si Cassandra, pero alam niyang isa ito sa mga instances when she should capture the moment in film. Without him knowing, tinutok niya ang camera sa mukha nito. He turned when he heard a click. Siguraduhin mo lang na maganda ang kuha ko dyan, he warned with a lazy grin. Lumapit siya at tinampian ng mababaw na halik ang bibig nito. It was an unconscious gesture na pareho nilang kinagulat, especially after the long hours spent last night controlling the undeniable urge to get physical. Give me the camera, utos ito. Nagtataka man ay binigay rin niya iyon. May mga binago ito sa settings. Pagkatapos, pinatong nito iyon sa isang flat na bato. Hinila siya ng binata. And as she smiled and waited for the click, bigla na itong hinawakan ng mukha niya. Kasabay ng click ng camera ay ang paglapat ng mga labi nito sa kanya. A few minutes later, feeling a little light-headed from the languid kiss they shared, sakay na silang muli ng kotse ni Mateo, with a smug grin, and she with a deep flush on her cheeks. Dinaanan nila ang Limerick City at saniling sumilip sa St. John's Cathedral. Mula sa syudad, pinagpatuloy nila ang biyahe. The hustle and bustle replaced by the lush countryside setting of the picturesque Adare village. Humingi sila ng direksyon patungo sa Desmond Castle. Makailang ulit silang huminto para makiusap sa ilang natives. Nakunan sila ng picture sa tabi ng isa sa mga thatch houses na naglinya sa gilid ng daan. Puno na yung memory card mo bago pa tayo makarating sa pupuntahan natin, biro ni Mateo. Malaki yung memory card capacity nito, no? At saka may dala naman akong reserba. Nailing na lamang ang katabi niya. They went on, had lunch at a cozy dinner at Raleigh. They drove the quiet suburbs of Venite para makita ang monument ni Sir Brendan, the navigator. Sunod nilang pinuntahan ang Benerville Windmill at ang Caherconny Promontory Fort. Mateo watched in fascination as Cassandra took pictures of the majestic Caherconny Mountain. Hindi na nila kakayaning akitin ang pinakatuktok para marating ang remains ng isang legendary port. But a few minutes stranded on a deserted road with a vivacious raven-haired female was the next big thing to reaching a mountain summit. Hindi siya makapaniwala nang sabihin nitong mamamasyal muna sila bago dumiretso sa farmhouse. Talagang sinusulit ito ang bakasyon, and he was not one to complain. Kahit pagod, iba pa rin ang kasiyang nararamdaman niya sa bawat ngiti, bawat singhap, at bawat ningning ng mga mata ni Cassandra. I wish we could climb, sabi nito. Inakbayan niya ang dalaga, kapwa nila tinangala ang tuktok ng bundok. Some other time, sweetheart, aniya. Her head spun. A frown creased her temple at his use of the endearment. Umawang ang bibig nito sa aktong may gustong sabihin. Naghintay siya, pero wala siyang narinig. His gaze strayed down to her partly open mouth. She was breathing raggedly and so was he, partly from exhaustion, more from the intensity of desire consuming their bodies. At hindi nakatulong ang tahimik na environment para pahupain ang init na unti-unting tumutupok sa kanila. Cassandra cleared her throat nervously, at bago pa maulit ang nangyari sa Port Louis, inakay na niya ito pabalik ng sasakyan. Mula sa Charlie, dumiretso na sila sa farmhouse ni Don Joaquin. Sa Kilvicadonig, isang village sa 10 kilometro ang layo mula sa Dingletown. Oh my God! Cassandra exclaimed. The single detached farmhouse was seated on an elevated land overlooking Ventre Bay. Sa likod ay ang Mount Eagle. Mateo, I could stay here forever. Nilibot ito ang mga mata sa expanse ng lupang nalalatagan ng berdeng damo. May mangilan-ngilang tupa na nanginginain sa malapit, kasama ng mga baka nang malay nakapaglalakad sa malawak na lupa. 5 days! And he had a feeling that it wouldn't be enough. Pumasok muna tayo sa loob. Lumalamig na ang hangin. A fine mist was starting to form at the peak. Mateo switched on the lights. Bumaha ng liwanag sa buong living room. The house was minimally furnished but cozy. Isang hearth ang nasa far side ng living room, katabi ng isang whisker basket na puno ng firewood. The air was beginning to get chilly. Lumapit siya sa dapugan at gumawa ng apoy. Minutes later, the chillness inside the room disappeared. Impressive. Biro ni Cassandra. Nagkibit balikat lamang siya. Sunod nilang pinuntahan ang kusina. At gaya ng pinangako ni Don Joaquin, puno ng supplies ang freezer, kahit ang cupboard. They have more than enough food to last them for 5 days. Sinubukan ni Cassandra na buksan ang gripo at natuwa na isahod ang isang kamay sa tubig. The water was lukewarm. This is just wonderful, Mateo. This whole place is heaven on earth. We've got everything we need. Don Joaquin made sure of that. Gusto mong maglakad-lakad tayo mamaya? Let's find a place to dine. Umiling ito. Not tonight. Ipagluluto na lamang kita ng dinner. Umarko ang isang kilay niya. Are you sure? Can you really cook? Bakit di mo na lamang hintayin na makapagluto ako? And then, judge for yourself. You little faith. Laughter reverberated inside his throat. Sige nga, impress me. Who knows? Baka kapag nagustuhan ko ang luto mo, I might hire you as my personal cook. Lumukot ang mukha nito. Wala siyang pakialam kung mapikon man ito. He had a million ways in his mind right now to console her if that would happen. Let's check the bedrooms. Are we sharing a room? Do you want to? Amo niya. Secretly, he was hoping she would say yes. Not this time, I think. Anito. Hindi na lamang niya pinahalata sa dalaga ang pagkadismaya. In those few hours I spent with her, nakalimutan niya nagkukunwari lamang sila. At walang dahilan para umarte dahil wala naman silang audience. But damn, he really wished she was his wife. His real wife. He would love to make love to her in this cozy little house on a warm bed with a fire burning and smoke coming out of the chimney. It would be very magical. Magkatapat lamang ang 2 kwarto sa itaas. One was painted in light blue. The drapes, bed sheets, and pillow covers are all in deep azure. The second one was painted purple. I hate purple, anas si Cassandra. Namimili ang mga mata nito nang tumitig sa kanya. Doon ako sa blue room. What? Ayoko din ng purple. 5 days lang naman eh. I-imagine mo na lamang na blue din ang kulay ng kwarto mo. Tukso nito. Pinagulong na nito ang maleta papasok sa blue room. I will just take a quick shower. Naiwan siyang nagkakamot ng ulo nang isara nito ang pinto. He stepped inside his room and grimaced at the caller. Cassandra was telling him the truth. She was a great cook. Magaling pa nga sa kusinera niya. Naglaway siya na makita ang chicken roll stuffed with mozzarella sticks and dribbled with some mayo honey sauce. The scrumptious carbonara with buttered toast completed their first home-cooked dinner. Matapos ang hapunan, inaya niyang maglakad-lakad sila. She was wearing a thick cardigan over her t-shirt. Bahagya itong nanginig nang lumabas sila. He was quick to gather her clothes. Giniginaw ka pa? Tanong niya. She smiled and wound her arms around his waist. Hindi na ngayon, she whispered. They strolled downhill and stopped at a safe distance from the cliff. Dinig nilang marahas na pagtama ng tubig sa naglalakihang bato sa ibaba ng cliff. The bay looked calm. Behind them, Mount Eagle was covered with a blanket of white mist. Bakit gusto mong makuha ang hotel na iyon, Mateo? I'm sure maraming ibang magagandang hotel na pwede mong bilhin at pagkakitaan. Hindi mo na kailangan magtiis sa isang weird na challenge katulad nito. Kung hindi kita nakilala, baka nga bumalik na ako sa Pilipinas at kinalimutan ang interes ko sa hotel na iyon. God knows Don Joaquin is one tough old guy to please. But you opened my mind, Cassandra. Hindi sa lahat ng oras perang mahalaga. Sometimes, you just have to make do with what you have for the moment and enjoy life. And believe me, I have never had so much fun in my life until you came, and we have this crazy adventure. Gustong sumabog ng dibdib ni Cassandra sa kaligayahan. May positibo rin pala siyang naging impluwensya sa pananaw ng binata. She was only hoping for a quiet and enjoyable escape. Wala sa hinagap na higit pa roon ang mararanasan niya. She had found a friend. More than a friend kung pagbibigyan niya ang puso. The nagging reality hit her like a bald fist to her gut. Ipinikit niya ang mga mata at pilit na binura ang alalahanin sa kanyang isip. May 4 na araw pa siyang nalalabi para manatili sa fantasy world niya. Nakilala ni Dad si Mommy sa hotel na iyon. My dad was traveling on business. Chambermaid naman si Mommy ng La Preciosa Uno. Sabi nila it was love at first sight. Napakasal sila bago matapos ang commitment ni Daddy sa Spain. And each year, siniguro nilang babalikan nilang hotel na iyon para sa anniversary nila. And when they had me, higit pang naging espesyal ang bawat pagbisita namin doon. I remember having to sit at our own corner table every year, overlooking the turquoise sea at one side and the surrounding mountain and green meadows at the other. Kahit ang inuo ko maraming room noon, ay ganun din ang view. Humigpit ang yakap ni Mateo sa kanya. Narinig niyang malalim itong buntong hininga. Nagpatuloy ito. It was my second home, Cassandra. Kapag naroon kami, we were just ordinary people, an ordinary family. After they died, I buried myself in work, just so I won't miss them. When Don Joaquin announced he was ready to sell the hotel, my first thought was, I've got to have it. Natuwa siyang marinig na hindi lamang pala isang business venture ang rason kung bakit interesado ito sa property. May sentimental side din ang binata. There was no need for words. They just stood there, admiring nature's fine masterpiece, share memories as deep as the raw but unspoken passion they had for each other. At dito na po nagtatapos ang ika-4 na kabanata ng ating kwento. Salamat po!